If you would have asked me my junior year of high school who I was, it would be a lot different answer than the one I now give. I wanted to be a nurse or a doctor. I had a perfect attendance, 3.8 GPA. I was ready for my senior year. Spent my time worrying about the ACT, applying for colleges, wondering if I should go right away, if I could even survive college. I was outgoing and fun-loving and adventurous. That all changed in the blink of an eye. Tuesday afternoon, a month into the musical practice of Titanic, running across the street to Jewel Osco to get cheap chicken Tuesday for dinner, running back to my school, starting to change into my costume, and I glanced down. The lower half of my body was covered in hives. I called my mom. She thought nothing of it, and so did I. I'm lactose intolerant, and I had yogurt earlier in the day, so probably an effect of too much dairy. Till the same hives popped up every day, worse and worse. I had to drop my role and become stage help. Stage help turned from an everyday thing to 3 times a week, 2 times a week, every other week, and then almost not at all. Doctor appointments crowded my schedule. Allergist, disease specialist, oncologist, endocrinologist, more disease specialists, another allergy test. Each doctor had a different answer to what they felt I had. Parvo, gluten allergy, strawberry allergy, lupus, strep test, even though it came back negative 8 times. Every diagnosis was a dead end. My pediatrician continued to prescribe me things to make the pain subside, even if it was just a little bit. You see, this was not the flu. It was not something that seemed to just go away with Motrin. I would wake up every morning completely fine. By midday, my knee or ankle or finger would be swollen to twice the size of it normally was. By the time I got home, I would have an 102-degree fever. I would be covered in hives. I would fall asleep right away for a few hours for my mom to wake me up, force me to do homework, and I would fall back asleep right away, and they would start again. 3 months. 3 months it took them to diagnose me. Most days I would have hives which itched, felt like mix of mosquito bites and sunburn, and one of my joints would be swollen or in excruciating pain. The day I was diagnosed was interesting to say the least. I had no symptoms whatsoever. I was sent to a rheumatologist because my pediatrician felt that I had a form of rheumatoid arthritis. Upon entering her office, it was probably the best I had felt in the past 3 months. It was also a children's hospital, and I had just turned 17, so I kind of felt like an idiot. When the doctor came in to see me, the first thing she said was, "You definitely don't look like you have arthritis at all." She explained that most patients were younger, hospitalized often, and their hive pattern was much different than mine, usually in one area, not spread throughout their entire body like mine was. An hour later, my life would change forever. You see, when my blood work came back, it showed that I was a lot more ill than I presented. I was on the brink of death, and I did not even know it. I was diagnosed with Still's disease. The medical terminology did not make any sense to me. Juvenile, systematic, autoimmune. I just wanted to know how to get better. I began to pretend to listen, but I felt numb. Basically, I have arthritis, but everyone has arthritis. And what most don't realize is that mine was different. I had an autoimmune disorder, which meant that my arthritis attacks my body from the inside, so even if my right knee was the size of a softball, my fingers could be in excruciating pain with no evidence. My medication list became never-ending. I started to have to write them all down just to remember how much I was taking and what I was actually taking. Eventually, I did start to get better. Senior year was in full swing. My medications were sort of stabilized, and I was preparing for prom. That was until I had forgotten to take one of my medications. But it was only 20 minutes late. Or so I thought. And I realized, maybe what's the big deal? Wrong. This particular medication was Kinneret. It's a subcutaneous injection I had to give myself in my abdomen every day. I ended up in the hospital for 3 days, a week before prom, on a superdose of prednisone. For those who don't know what prednisone is, it's a steroid which makes you gain weight quickly and often makes your face and abdomen bloated. It could also make you very cranky and have crazy mood swings. I was not happy I was getting it, as I did not want to be bloated or a sobbing mess at prom. I had been taking this medication since the beginning of my diagnosis. as high as 60 milligrams, and I had finally worked my way down to 2.5 when I was superdosed back up to 60. But on the medication, I felt fantastic. You know those heart rate things that they put on your fingers that are red and kind of like a Band-Aid? Yeah. I started looking at mine very intensely and randomly turned to my mom and said in my vast alien voice, "Hey, Mom." E.T. phone home, while slowly lifting my finger, looking at her. Sadly, that video was lost. Thankfully, though, I was able to make it to prom and complete the rest of my senior year. You may be asking, well, what happened then? And the answer is that I was actually normal for a while. Now, then and again, my stills will pop up for no rhyme or reason, but thankfully I have not been sent back to the hospital, just to the lab to get a lot of blood work done. And when you ask me what a lot is, 12 vials of blood. Every single time. One thing with stills is you easily can check other illnesses. Over the summer, I was diagnosed with a submandibular jaw infection. Before they knew what it was exactly, I was put on medication, which was sun-sensitive, but me being me did not listen. I ended up with second-degree sunburn, which was not fun. I tell this story because I went on my first date with my now boyfriend while I had second-degree sunburn, and the left side of my jaw looked like I may have been beaten up. Thankfully, he stuck around, because the weekend of Thanksgiving and following week, I went into a remission, which means that my stills hit full blast. I popped up with all the same beginning symptoms, and I did not know why. Tommy had to pick me up Friday morning and drive me back to the doctor, where they told me the entire cause of all of the hives was a sinus infection. An overexuberation of myself at a wedding the weekend of Thanksgiving. Stills still has a large impact on my life, but I no longer let it stop me. For a while, if you would have asked me what I wanted to do, I would have said stay home, work full time. I didn't want to deal with the world and people looking at me different because of my autoimmune disease. Now I carry it around with pride. I have a medical ID which states my disorder and my allergies in case of emergencies, has all my doctor's numbers on file, and I want to be a special education teacher in order to help children that have disabilities and make them understand that it's okay to be different. I enjoy adventure as much as I can, and I push myself to get better and to live in pride that stills cannot stop me.